Okay, we are recording. Thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Georgie Getley, the Program Administrator at CU Boulder Ombuds Office. Thanks for attending today's Lunch and Learn program as part of our Small Bite, Big Impact. The purpose of these 30-minute programs is to provide a bite-sized amount of information along with the skills that you can start using immediately. It is not a workshop, and as such, engagement is limited. Before we get started, I want to go over some logistics for today's session. So you'll already have noticed that you are muted and that your video is off to reduce distractions. We will be using the chat for questions and responses. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and open the chat box now. Please know that if you do use the chat, that your name will appear. While Brenna is presenting, Liz Hill, our Associate Director in the Ombuds Office, and I will respond to any logistical questions that come up in the chat, and we'll park any questions relating to content until the question and answer period at the end. We are recording this session to reach as many people as possible, including those who are unable to attend today. And this recording will be available on our website within the next day or two. Also, within the next few days, we will send a follow-up email with the resources today shared in today's presentation, as well as the slides. And we would also really love to hear your feedback after this session. We'll be sharing a link to a feedback survey in the chat, and we will also include this in the follow-up email. So we are going to get started, and I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Brenna Merrill, who's going to talk to us about repair after rupture. Brenna is the Prevention Education Coordinator in the Office of Institutional Equity and Compliance. Before she joined CU Boulder, she co-created an internationally recognized consent education campaign and developed a nationally spotlighted workplace harassment prevention workshop. Brenna believes that preventing interpersonal violence, from microaggressions to sexual assault, requires the strengthening of individual social emotional skills and the development of pro-social community norms. Her work, therefore, focuses on somatic attunement, attachment strategies, and accountability. In addition to providing training that supports staff and faculty, she also provides workshops to students that focus on bystander intervention skills, relationship and team development, and sexual health. So we're going to hand it over to Brenna, who's going to kick us off and get started. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Georgie. And thank you, everyone, for sharing your time with me today. I really appreciate it. As mentioned, I'm from the Office of Institutional Equity and Compliance here at CU. That's also referred to as OIEC. This office is charged with ensuring civil protections at the university, and so that's specifically preventing and responding to protected class harassment and discrimination, preventing and responding to sexual misconduct, and ensuring ADA compliance. So if any of those things are ever a thing that you want additional training or additional support around, OIEC is the office to reach out to, and we're always happy to field kind of questions or concerns. Today, I will be spending the session talking about repairing work relationships. So when we think about repair, there is a lot that goes into it. One, if you leave here without retaining anything else, the one thing I want to leave you with is that repair is a vital component of any and all healthy relationships. So your intimate relationships, your working relationships, your friendships, your parent relationships, all of these relationships require repair. And that is because there is no relationship that exists without conflict, hurt, harm, or mistakes happening. And so the aim of this workshop today is not to learn how to become somebody who can never be mean. I think it's impossible to try and reach that bar, but instead to really think about how we can strengthen that lifelong skill of noticing in ourselves when we are causing harm to others or causing contention in relationships, and then making it accountable efforts towards repair with ourselves and with others. This notion that healthy relationships require repair really comes out of attachment theory. If you're interested in some additional learning after this webinar, I would suggest the book, The Power of Attachment. And Liz will put that in the chat, as well as a lot of other resources I'll share today. But this book really helps guide and think about how to make secure and lasting relationships with an understanding that mistakes can happen and repair is possible. I also want to acknowledge that apologizing and making repair does not come easy to many of us. None of us, I would say, came out of the womb as experts on conflict and repair, and few of us got really good examples in our society and in our culture for how to do conflict. Then, in addition to our own selves not necessarily seeing a lot of examples of how to do repair, the people we are trying to repair with may not have had examples for repair, may not kind of understand conflict in the same way we do. And this means that even when we are repairing kind of with our best intention, that the conflict can still go awry, and it's because you're in relation with people. As Georgie mentioned, we only have 30 minutes together, and so there's a lot of nuance to get into. Today, I'm really just going to focus on assuming that the other person is receptive to your repair, and that you are in a place where you are wanting to make that repair. Another book that you could check out is Why Won't You Apologize by Harriet Lerner. I'm seeing it's also a previous Lunch and Learn topic, so you could probably go onto the Ombuds website and find that webinar as well. This book in a lot of ways helps talk about and normalize how difficult it is to be in relationship and trying to repair. And when I say repair, I'm really meaning three specific things. The first is identifying the problem. The second is resolving the conflict. And the third is doing both of those first two things while holding the possibility that future connection is possible. And that last piece is a really important piece for me when I think about conflict and when I think about repair, because if we don't have that hope for something to be better, if we don't have that intention, then discussing the problem and resolving the conflict is not really going to lead us to a solution that maintains a long-lasting relationship. And again, that is the type of repair we're talking about today. If you finish this webinar, say, wow, I really want to learn more. There are two podcasts, one by Hidden Brain and one by Unlocking Us, that both have descriptions of people going through the process of apologizing. So if it's a skill that you're looking for how do I even have that conversation? What does it sound like? Both of those podcasts give kind of some background and some examples that I'm not going to be able to get to today. Before we go any further, I would like you all to think about, and then if you're so inclined, add to the chat, how you are already good at repairing ruptures in your work relationships. I assume that you're at this webinar because you know that ruptures happen in work relationships. And I assume that all of you have some sort of skill or talent already. So I would love, I'll give you a moment to think, take notes for yourself, and then share in the chat if you are willing. Some of the ways that you are already good at repairing ruptures in work relationships. While I'm waiting for responses to come in through the chat, I will give some examples. One for me is kind of having ongoing one-on-ones with folks, so that especially in this hybrid kind of world, so that I feel like I have an established relationship with people, so that conflict is not the only time that we're communicating. I've got someone who said asking clarifying questions, reflecting back what was heard. I'm just adding some of these to the screen so you can view them on YouTube later. Taking ownership, asking for help. Also, spelling doesn't count. We've got checking in, following up. I like this one, taking responsibility for the story I tell myself. We're going to kind of talk about what we're telling ourselves in a later slide. Listening to others, not avoiding the conflict. All right, there are a few more in the chat. Being curious, addressing things directly, being honest when I've made mistakes. Thank you all for adding those thoughts. The reason that I really want us to start with thinking about what we are good at when it comes to repair is that I find, for the most part, we all know the steps of how to do apology. Like, we all could go on Google, get a listicle that says step 1, you know, acknowledge, step 2, talk about it, whatever those steps are. And one of the hardest things about repair is the kind of emotional things that come up for us, and the kind of structural barriers that might be in the way. And so I really want to highlight the fact that you all already have great skills at conflict resolution. And that my aim today is not to tell you how to do those things that you already know how to do. Instead, I'm really hoping that we can make a space to think about, like, what is going on and why it is sometimes really hard to do those things, and what additional skills we might need to develop to help foster the things that we're already good at when it comes to conflict resolution. All right. So I really like the reflective practice model. Can I get thumbs up in the on your little reaction if you have heard about the reflective practice model before, if this is something that you've seen, the what, so what, and now what kind of cycle. I have just a few. Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you. So I am sharing this as one tool of many to really think about what is going on in our brains and our experiences and how we can make change when we're confronted with dilemmas. This is not the one and only model to use, but it's the model that I thought I would demonstrate during today's presentation. I really like it because the words for me are super memorable. Just what, so what, now what. And today we're going to kind of go into each of those three, and I'll explain a little bit about what each is, give an example, and then also have an opportunity for you all to share back. That said, I think some of you may be coming to this presentation with the kind of background of there being rupture in a relationship that you are trying to find answers to. Like, you came to me today and said, maybe there'll be answers at this Ombuds Lunch and Learn. And if that's the case, like, I would love for you to kind of note take with that in mind. If that is not the case, that is also totally fine. And I would love for you to note take with things that either happened in the past that you can relate to, or follow along with one of the examples I will share. So to get us started, what? So this is really the part of the reflection cycle where we are trying to gather information. We're trying to describe the situation as we experienced it. We're trying to take ourselves out of the situation and think about what it might have been like for an outside observer. We're trying to perspective take and get the sense of what the other people involved in the situation might have been feeling or responding to or noticing. We're trying to think about both kind of the timeline of things, but also the somatic or the physical reactions we had to those moments, noticing the thoughts that we had, and really recognizing the way that our
CU alert test.
Oh golly, guys, it's the CU alert test. Give me 1 second. Okay. So where was I? And really noticing the ways that our relationships can give us insight into this scenario. What I like to do when I think of this process is truly on a piece of paper, right? What, so what, now what? And answer some of these what questions. Now, not all of these what questions will necessarily have an answer for every situation, and there may be other questions you want to ask yourself as you're trying to information gather. In today's session, I am going to be focusing on a microaggression. Very briefly, a microaggression is a slight that makes a person feel that they are excluded. And it's often communicated in a way that may or may not be intentional, and is based on status as a marginalized group. There is a handout that we have that helps think through how to intervene when you hear a microaggression or a biased comment. That'll be added to the chat as well as emailed out to you later. But for the sake of time, we're just going to use kind of this definition and move on. So my example comes from a coworker who said I could share this story with you all. She was in a working group, and a coworker requested a meal train for her and her family. And my friend said, great, that sounds wonderful. Like, what do you and your husband need? And it turns out that this coworker's partner was not a husband, was not a man. They were in a same-sex relationship. And so this is an example of a microaggression, right? It was that my friend had this assumption through society, through stereotypes, that the default partner in someone's family was going to be a heterosexual person. And so during when my friend made this comment, a mutual coworker corrected her during the staff meeting in front of everybody. She felt a sense of shame because it really is not fun to be wrong. Had a sense of embarrassment because she was corrected in front of all of her colleagues. A sense of defensiveness because that's not how she sees herself. She sees herself as someone who is really thoughtful about the language she uses. And a feeling of worry because she wasn't sure how that then impacted the coworker that she incorrectly described her spouse for. And so I want us in the chat again to think about what are some of the what's of your situation. Again, I don't necessarily want to know all the nitty-gritty in this moment, so I've highlighted, I bolded these two. How did I know that hurt and harm happened? And how do I feel in the moment versus now? I would love to know if you're thinking about either this example situation and other things that could be added to it, or your own example or situation that you're thinking through. What are some of the ways that you knew that hurt or harm happened? And what are some of the feelings that you felt in the moment or that you feel after? Go ahead and add them to the chat. I know, especially when I think of some times that I microaggress against others, it's kind of the sense of like feeling taken off guard. Or that like the harm that I caused was unexpected. Yeah, we've got a shift in body language, helps us know that harm happened. As well as oh, both were body language. Awesome. So shift in body language. Ava, can you say a little bit more for me? Oh, sorry, I understand. My brain just caught up. Yeah, so sometimes people tell you. Sometimes people tell you what that you caused harm. Yeah, we have people withdraw. People not being included. Which I'm gonna say too, like develops a pattern, right? Like this moment leads to a pattern of behavior. I like this idea of fight and flight. Our nervous systems are designed to look at the world around us and say, are there bears? Are there tigers? Are there anything big and scary that I need to address? And kind of quickly make assessments about if we're safe or not. Being able to identify some of these what's can be really important. Thank you all. Me. Oops. So then the so what? This is really thinking about why it is important to process the situation. It's understanding why is it significant? What are my motivations for that repair? What went well? What went badly? I want to highlight that second to last bullet point that is about that pattern of action. Again, because today I'm talking a little bit about microaggression, which is really understanding that, like, even if I cause a harm once, if I know that there is a history in this person's life, or because of their positionality of that harm or hurt happening, that is going to have a different impact. And so in my example, you know, my friend was trying to balance a lot of different things about how she wanted to show up as a person and how she wanted to show up as a coworker, as well as how she wanted to make repair within that relationship with both of her coworkers. We are limited on time, but I would invite you later today to, again, think about what is the so what of our situation. And then finally, to the now what. So this is helping us understand what is the most important thing to address, what makes us nervous, and what sorts of help might we need. Someone at the very start of this mentioned needing to reach out to the ombuds for additional help. Like, that is a great strategy. So this now what space is really the action plan space to think about what your next step might be. And this is not to solve every single thing, right? So in my example, my friend didn't go and repair relationship with every single person at her staff meeting. She reached out to the person who called her out, and she reached out to the person she may have harmed. And maybe one day later, she'll reach out to other people who might have lost trust because of her comment. And that is not, like, in this cycle of what, now what, so what, our aim is really not to solve everything all at once. It's to take one little piece of what is the most significant thing we want to do today, what is the barrier we can overcome to do that, and let's put that in motion. And recognize that what we put into motion may or may not work, and we might go through the cycle yet again and might say, you know, the what is that I then tried this thing and this is how it went, and I'm gonna think about it and move through the cycle one more time. The final thing that I want to share is that the ongoing relationship building really is the key to being able to repair relationships, but also being able to create a place before repair needs to happen, before rupture happens. And that ongoing relationship building is developed through making it possible for people to get to know you, seeking out ways within your work plan and your schedule to have deeper connection, and really holding on to a belief of positive regard. And with all of that, I am 1 minute over, so thank you for those who have stayed. OIEC is available to offer additional trainings. I've got our email address there on the screen. And then I also just like to pitch the Don't Ignore It website, which is a great resource if you're ever looking for what to report, how to get support, and how to help others if you ever need those things for you, for students, for colleagues. And that is, you know, what we're here to do. So thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. And please check out the email that Georgie will send out for both the survey and a whole list of resources. Thank you all.